Ladies and gentlemen, JP Alexander for the Rabid Dogs Unleashed. It's Sunday, November 15th, 2020. And a few minutes ago, I made another video that I feel is not right to release at this time. Maybe I'll release it later, but I feel I should make this video before that video. Maybe a few others before that video. That video might be a little too decisive to release right now. Let me get into, in this episode, this video, let me get into white supremacy, or what I think about white supremacy right now. I'm from New York City and then Long Island. And, I gotta say, growing up, I never met a white supremacist, KKK person, neo-Nazi skinhead, none of those ever. Never met one. Met people who were racist, sure, of course. Blacks were racist too, as well as whites, of course. Hispanics were racist. Blacks were racist against Hispanics. Asians were racist against, I mean, I didn't know them personally, let's say, just saw instances of maybe racism among the different groups of people. But I never met a neo-Nazi skinhead KKK member, no, not in New York. And I didn't even think it existed. I thought it was in Roots. I grew up, I saw Roots when I was about 11. And that was my first, big introduction to what slavery was. It was a great show, and it opened up a lot of our eyes to what, slavery was in the United States at one point, But I didn't grow up like that. I mean, I grew up, there was African Americans who went to my school. There was, Asians who went to my school, Hispanics who went to my school, American Indians who went to my school, Indians from India went to my school. All went to schools around my area, and I've seen, it was a melting pot in New York and Long Island. So yeah, I saw a lot of that growing up. Didn't feel racist against anybody. Maybe they, hung around in their groups. Let's say African Americans hung around with other African Americans, and maybe most of my friends were Italian Irish, like I am, kind of a Polish and some Jewish friends, and I had a Puerto Rican friend, and there was an African American who did hang around with us from time to time, but it was racially diverse where I grew up, let's say. So I didn't see any of these, so-called white supremacists. And when I moved to Washington, Northern Virginia, in 1999, there was a Klan rally, and I thought it was a joke. I was like, Klan exists? I thought it was just in Roots, and I didn't think it still existed, but it did. But it didn't get a lot of traction down there, even in 1999. I'm sure now it even gets less traction than it did then. So when Barack Obama was elected twice from 2008 to 2016, I never heard the big thing about white supremacy. And wouldn't the white supremacists come out of the woodwork then and possibly make his presidency a living hell? If they were so many, if there was such a threat, I think they probably would have, but they didn't. You didn't hear anything about that. And all of a sudden, Trump becomes president, and you hear it. And like I knew Trump growing up. Like I knew of him in New York, doing these big land deals in New York City, and of course The Apprentice. And I never heard the word racist, association with him. I never even saw it. I saw his show. He treated everybody the same, even women and men the same. Everybody the same. I didn't see anything that would lead me to believe any of that until, of course, he said he was going to run as a Republican for the 2016 presidential nomination. And all of a sudden, everybody's saying he's a racist. I didn't see it. I'm sorry. I still don't see it after all these years. I mean, maybe he didn't, denounce white supremacy as much as he should. But maybe it has a lot to do with he doesn't want to denounce anything. I think one thing about him is he doesn't play what you expect him to play. He doesn't play he doesn't dodge the problems. He doesn't, you know, most people, like if they brought that up, they would, I denounce it whole, and then would make a big deal about denouncing it, and they would, say what everybody thinks they should say. Um, he doesn't. He basically he did denounce it, but maybe not as strongly as they would have liked. But I don't think that's Do I think he's a white supremacist? No. I think white supremacists may, of course, like him better than a Democrat. Of course. I mean, and Black Lives Matter, uh, you know, individuals would like Obama more than or Joe Biden. But so would you ask Obama, hey, when he was president, if there was Black Lives Matter, I'm not even sure when Black Lives Matter had come out, would they ask him to denounce it? Of course not. And I see more Black Lives Matter individuals and Antifa individuals, members, doing more writing nowadays than I do the so-called white supremacists. Some people say white supremacy is the biggest threat to the American society right now. I think that's a load of bullshit. I think this is just the Democrats trying to get the African American vote back. And if you see Trump's numbers, they're losing it even more. More African American men and women have voted for Trump more than any Republican in a long time, if ever. Um, so, you can call Trump as racist as you want, but I think a lot of people know that's a bunch of horse shit. And I personally believe, and again, I mean, I don't want to come across as a Democrat or Republican, but I think the Democrats see themselves, their numbers dwindling among the African American voter base because a lot of African Americans are becoming more conservative because they're making more money. They have something to conserve. And also, I think a lot of African Americans see that the Democrat Party hasn't done a lot for them except kept them down. It's like, you stay there, we'll give you handouts, we'll give you money and handouts, we'll give you this program and that program and no program, we'll help take care of you. Just give us your vote. And a lot of them are like, I don't need you to take care of me. I can take care of myself. I'm doing pretty well right now. And I don't want to pay the taxes that you're requiring so you could keep me where I am. I don't want to be where I am. I want to rise up. And I don't want to be, as 50 Cent said, I don't want to be 20 Cent. And yeah, I believe him wholeheartedly. And I don't think that's a white or black thing. I think it's a common sense thing. Why would you want to pay more taxes to the man? Believe me, I work for the government. You don't want to give them any more money. They don't know what they're doing with the money they already have. And you're going to rely on them to help you out. I think it's better to help yourself. That's what I think. And I think we're getting to the point in our society where, every individual could help themselves more and more. I think right now, the United States is less racist than it's ever been in its history. Not saying that we have a good track record in the United States. We don't, but a lot of other countries have worse records than us. I mean, people talk about all racism, but I've lived in places that are far more racist than we are. The French hate, the French are okay with black Africans, but not olive skin Africans. They hate the Northern Africans, pretty much. And a lot of North Africans are born in France, and they're French citizens. You'll never see them being the president of France, probably for a long time to come, if ever. Okay, in Serbia, they hate the Albanians. They hate the Romas, the Gypsies. Like really bad. And Kosovo, they don't recognize as a country, and they would like Kosovo to go away, if not be totally wiped off the map. That's that. I mean, the Brazil has more blacks than we do in the United States, but they had slavery 30 years longer than we did, till 1893, 1895. So almost 30 years longer than we had slavery. They had slavery. Okay, we had 5% of the total African slaves in the Atlantic slave trade. Brazil had over 40%. Okay, because they killed a lot of them off. And to this day, if you see a black guy in Brazil wearing a suit, he's a doorman. Okay, so don't tell me these countries are not racist. Okay, Iceland's famously not racist, but Iceland's all white hair, white skin, white hair, and they got a few blacks here and there who are trying to, immigrate to that country, and they're okay with them, but as long as there's only a few of them, you can probably count, how many blacks you see in Iceland on any, given day or given week if you see any, and if you do, most of them are tourists. They don't live there, so it's easy to say we're not racist when everybody's the same, everybody's related, everybody's could trace their roots back to Norway in the Norse, uh, you know, what's his name? Leif Erikson in 798 or whatever, whatever. Well, no, he was the great grandson or something of Eric the Red, who came over and discovered Iceland for the Norwegians, something like that. I'm don't quote my history, but yeah, when I lived in Mauritania was West Africa. They didn't outlaw slavery until 1984, and they still have a form of slavery called indentured servitude. So don't tell me we're the most racist country in the world. That's horseshit. We're actually one of the least racist countries I've ever lived in, if you could believe that. But get the hell out of your little comfort zone there, and and who actually bought? Okay, we weren't even a country when slaves started to come over. We weren't even in the United States. The Europeans who created the United States got slaves from Africa, bought them from other Africans. They didn't. The Europeans didn't go in the jungle and catch the tribesmen and bring them on a boat and bring them back to the New World. They didn't do that. They just went to the ports and bought them at a slave trade, and they probably auctioned most of them off from other blacks who put themselves who put other blacks in slavery. Yeah, it's horrible. The whole thing was horrible, and it's terrible. And but that's how we became a country. We should wear this on our sleeve. We do. We do wear it on our sleeve, and we admit it. And unlike some other countries like Brazil, we talk about it a lot. Brazilians just ignore it and just say, "It never happened. We're not racist. I don't know what you're talking about." So I think we should really, look at our history before we point our fingers at ourselves and say, we're racist and we're what is it? The white guilt has a lot to do with this whole, we're spoiled because we're white. No, we're the privilege. Privilege. I guess my privilege is that maybe I went for a job interview and someone hired me over a black person because I'm white. Maybe I didn't know about it. Probably not. I don't know. What makes me more privileged than blacks? I guess I haven't been called names before like that, like the N-word. Okay, I guess I am. But they were treated really bad, and I'll acknowledge that. They were for many years, and it's horrible. But we're getting better, and we have gotten a lot better, and we got to strive to become even more better. But pointing the fingers at people now and saying, you've got to, you've got to acknowledge your privilege. Fuck that. My ancestors never had slaves. I'm not racist myself. You got to do this thing yourself. You got to help get our country better yourself. You have to just do your part, okay? You can't control anybody else. There's always going to be racists in the United States, okay? To say there's systemic racism, I think that's bullshit, okay? I think we need to look at the facts of other things and stop looking at the history and say that's why it is the way it is now. I don't believe it is the way it is now. Again, I'm a 55-year-old white guy who's speaking what I've seen, but I've lived for the last 21 years on and off in other countries. I've seen worse than we are, and I think we're doing very well. And we have elected a black president twice, and I have no doubt we will elect a black president again. And we have who's about to come into the office a female black, well, Indian black, what have you, who's going to become the first lady's vice president. And Joe Biden's probably not going to last the 4 years. I mean, let's admit it. So she'll be the first woman president of the United States. And I don't like her views, but I have no problem with her skin color or her heritage, you know. And there's a rumor that her parents had slaves in, not her parents, her ancestors had slaves in Jamaica. But, you know, that's a whole other story. But anyway, that's what I feel about this so-called white supremacy. I don't think it exists. I think the Democrats need to bring that up to get blacks scared, to get blacks, again, black on their side, to vote for them. But I think African Americans who vote Democrat are staying on the plantation that the Democrats have created for you. The Democrats, be reminded, ladies and gentlemen, is a party of the KKK. They're the party of the Jim Crow laws, okay? They're the party of the South. They're the party of Robert Byrd, who was a KKK member in the Senate, okay? Who things in West Virginia are still named after this racist, okay? Okay, a Democrat, okay? So before you go pointing fingers at, you know, and I don't want to come across as a Republican in this. I don't. I'm an independent. I'm not registered to any party. I wouldn't want to be a member of any of the parties anyway. I want to be able to vote any way I want to vote. I don't want to be having to vote for whoever they tell me to vote for. I'm going to vote for whoever I want to vote for. And yeah, I think the Democrats have been worse than the Republicans have. But the Democrats have been geniuses the last 50 some odd years in making people, the masses, think they are the cure for racism when they were really the inventors of it in the United States. When it comes to, you know, KKK and things like that, that was the Democrats, you know. And I think voting for a Democrat is keeping blacks down. That's my opinion. So this white supremacist itself, you know, they just want to lump in Trump with the white supremacist. I don't buy it. I'm sorry. If you took every white supremacist KKK member and not neo-Nazi skinhead, you want to fill Giant Stadium, and I'm going to be told that they're the biggest threat to America right now. They're the biggest threat. The 50,000 of them, or whatever there is of them. The militias are going to come in an arm and try to take over the country. Give me a fucking break. That ain't going to happen. Okay. Most of these people are too dumb to even tie their own shoelaces to leave their house. Come on. And you're going to tell me these people are going to rally together and start a race war? I've seen Antifa and Black Lives Matter do way more rioting and destruction of personal private property, you know, than I have these so-called white supremacists who are the biggest threat to America that we see right now. Again, bullshit, smokescreen being put up to get away from the fact that the Democrats are going to do nothing. And the fact that Biden won, it's a shame. I feel it's bad, but I feel we're going to live to regret it very soon. And that's just my opinion. That's all I have to say on that subject. If you have any comments, please say them, you know, below. And for the Rabid Dogs Unleashed, this is JP Alexander. And until next time, ciao.